Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, folks. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very, very much. It's great to be back in the Midwest, and it's great to be here in Omaha at the university, and appreciate the opportunity to visit with you today. I know that this is an area of the country that understands and appreciates the importance of American agriculture, but I think it is important for us to remember and to remind folks periodically about the importance of American agriculture. Folks often say, and it's accurate, that food security is national security. We happen to live in a country that is food secure, which means that we have the capacity and capability with American farmers to be able to feed ourselves. We don't really have to import food. We do so because we like choice. We like to be able to have access to certain foods all year round, even though we maybe not be able to grow them all year round here in the U.S. But in terms of actually feeding our people, we can get that done here. That's not true of a lot of other countries. It's certainly not true of China. China right now is a country that cannot and will not be able to feed its people. No matter what it does, it doesn't have the land mass, it doesn't have the capacity within their agricultural economy to be able to feed its own people, and so it has to import food, which obviously makes it a bit less safe in their view. So it's something we should appreciate about American agriculture. We should also appreciate American agriculture for any of us who aren't farmers. For those who are here as professors or chancellors or people who are in higher education, in my circumstance, practicing law, I suspect that when you made the decision to go into higher education, or you made the decision, as I did, to go in the practice of law, you didn't stop and think before you did that how you were going to feed your family. You didn't stop and think about, well, do I need to get an acre or two somewhere where I can plant some stuff and make sure that I can feed my family through my own efforts. What you knew was that all you needed was a paycheck, because that paycheck would allow you to go to the grocery store and be able to feed your family. You were able to do that because you delegated the responsibility of feeding your family to American agriculture and the food industry. And you were able to do that because we had incredibly productive farmers and ranchers and producers. You were able to do that without a second thought. And in fact, the American economy is so complex, so layered, in large part because we have had extraordinarily productive agriculture in this country since its beginning. In fact, it is one of the great stories of the American economy and of the American story is the role that American agriculture has played from the beginning of our country to today. But I'm here today to talk to you about the future of American agriculture and the importance of us thinking anew about it. On my desk in Washington, D.C., there is a volume that was published in 1863. It was the first report of the then Commissioner of Agriculture, a fellow by the name of Isaac Newton. Different Isaac Newton. He was the first Commissioner of Agriculture in the United States, and he was expressing concern to Abraham Lincoln in the preface of his report about what the department had done in its first year of existence, about the impact that consolidation of land ownership in the hands of fewer and fewer people had, not in America, but in the Roman Empire. And he was of the view and opinion that the consolidation of land ownership was a key result in the fall of the Roman Empire, and was suggesting that we needed to be concerned about that in the United States. Now, fast forward from 1863 to 1981. Then Secretary of Agriculture Bob Berglund, a fellow from Minnesota, was leaving office. And as he was leaving office, he was expressing concern about the direction of American agriculture over the last 10 years, the preceding 10 years. It was during that period of time, as you may remember, that we shifted from a supply management system that was established during the Depression to get the country out of depression, that essentially stabilized farm income for the most part, to a system where we essentially abandoned that supply management approach and we adopted a market orientation. Then Secretary Butts in the early 1970s encouraged America to plant fence row to fence row, and in fact that's exactly what we did, and it is an extraordinary story of productivity. Since that time, American agriculture has been 4 times more productive, despite the fact that it has less land and less inputs. It's still increasing productivity at an amazing, amazing rate. But Secretary Berglund was concerned about it. He was concerned that we would see fewer and fewer farms and the impact that that would have on small rural communities. Well, I'm here today to tell you that since Secretary Berglund's comments and since his report, we have lost farms. We've lost 544,950 farms since 1981. Now, to give you a sense of how many farms that is, you could take every farm in North Dakota and South Dakota and add it to every farm in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and add those farms to every farm in Illinois and Iowa, and add those farms to every farm in Nebraska and Colorado, and add those farms to every farm in Missouri and Oklahoma, and you'd have roughly 544,000 farms. We've lost in that same time period roughly 155 million acres of land that was in farming that isn't in farming today. Now, to give you a sense of how much land that is, that would take the entire state of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Maryland, and about 60% of Virginia. So the first question is, to all of you, is, are you okay with that? Do you think that's necessarily a good thing for the country? If you aren't, then the question is, what do you do about it? And several years ago, Secretary Perdue was in Wisconsin, and he was asked this question in the context of dairy operations. And his comment, which was quite true and quite honest, was, well, the system in America is such that you have to get big or you're probably going to have to get out. Are we okay with that? The problem with that prescription is that to get big, you have to have access to resources. You have to have access to income. Over the last 3 years, 4 years, we've seen record levels of farm income in the United States. In fact, the last 3 years of farm income have been the best 3 years in at least 50 years and arguably in the history of the country. Now, I'm pretty sure that if I went around and talked to Nebraska farmers and said that to them, they would look to me as if I was absolutely crazy, because that's not what they necessarily experienced on their individual farm. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is that a lot of the farm income has been concentrated. In fact, if you took a look at the top 7 or so % of farms, it would be roughly 150,000 farms out of 1.9 million or so. They sell more than $500,000 in sales every year. And those farms cumulatively collected somewhere between 85 and 89% of the income. But they represent 7% of the farms. That means that roughly 1.7 million or so of farms had to share somewhere between 11 and 15% of the income, which explains why nearly 50% of farms didn't make any money at all, and the other 40% or so made money, but the majority of money they made to support their families came from off-farm income. In fact, 88% of American farmers work off the farm or have off-farm income. So the question I pose today is, are we okay with a system that requires farmers to work multiple jobs? Or is there a better opportunity to ask the question, why is it that the farmer has to work 2 jobs? Why can't we make the farm generate more than one source of income? And that takes me to the whiteboard. Because I think what we have is a unique opportunity to complement, and I emphasize this word, complement production agriculture. We need to continue to have these extraordinarily successful, efficient, productive farms. Because we need to feed ourselves and we need to feed the world. But the question is, can we combine that effort with an effort that also says to those who wish to remain small or mid-sized, or for those who are just beginning to get into the business of farming, is there an option or an opportunity beyond get bigger, get out? So it starts obviously in the middle with the farm. And this is also true of potentially a land that's owned as forested land as well. And it begins with a commitment to climate smart agriculture. Now, climate smart agriculture is, out in the countryside, is often referred to as sustainable agriculture, regenerative agriculture, a series of steps that can be taken that will reduce the amount of greenhouse gas emissions connected to farming, or will sequester more carbon, or a combination of both. We basically took $3 billion from the Commodity Credit Corporation, and we asked American agriculture, what would you do with that money to promote climate smart agriculture? And farmers and ranchers and commodity groups came back to us and said, look, first of all, it's got to be voluntary. You can't mandate this. Totally agree. It's got to be voluntary. Second, there's got to be an incentive, because if 88% of farmers have to work off the farm to keep the farm, you can't ask us to spend more money trying out this climate smart stuff when we don't have income to begin with. So you got to help us. You have to incent us. And then it would be really helpful if we got rewarded beyond more productive land or cleaner water in terms of a market premium. So we set this process up, and then we prayed that there would be a few applications. Well, it turned out we got 1,000 applications, $20 billion in requests. We funded 141 of these projects. I was in Wisconsin, in a small town in Wisconsin, on Monday, Tuesday, whatever day, earlier this week. And I was at a factory that just expanded its operation. It's a packaging factory, and it's packaging climate smart rice. It's the first commercial product coming from these projects. The Columbia Grain Company purchased 50 million pounds of rice that's now being produced by 30 farmers in Arkansas and Louisiana using a climate smart irrigation system for the production of rice that uses half the water and reduces methane by 50%. There was a farmer from Arkansas there, Jim Whitaker, who basically said, Mr. Secretary, he said, commodity prices being what they are, we thought we would be losing money this year in our operation, but because of climate smart agriculture, we're going to be in the black. And he said, this is a great program. So this is the first commercial product of many that will be forthcoming. So we're paying farmers to produce climate smart commodities. And just to give you a sense of this, as of today, there are 136 of the 141 projects with signed contracts between us and lead agencies. It involves 102 of our commodities, so virtually every major commodity in the country is participating in this. We will be looking at 203 practices, climate smart practices. We already have several thousand farmers signed up and several million acres committed. We anticipate and expect by the end of this year, the first year of full operation, we'll have nearly 20,000 farms and 10 million acres involved in this as a beginning effort. The Seed Association came out recently and said that this program is going to increase cover crops by at least 10 million acres. So it's having a positive impact. But this is a program that basically creates a value-added opportunity for farmers. But we need to do more than that. We're going to measure, we're going to monitor, we're going to verify, and we're going to report the results of all of these projects. Farmers are going to allow us to aggregate information, and from that we're going to figure out what works, what of the 203 practices, what works, what doesn't work, how much it works. Why is this important? Because there are ecosystem service markets from industries that can't, like agriculture, get to a net zero future that will require agriculture's efforts to allow them to get to a net negative number at some point in time by offsets. In fact, the Arkansas rice producer basically talked to me about how his carbon sequestration initiatives and methane reduction is resulting in him participating now in an ecosystem service market that will be paying him for that benefit. This represents a new source of income, a new commodity, if you will, for American farmers. And we're investing roughly $300 million of IRA money in a system that will allow us to do a better job of measuring and monitoring and verifying and reporting, a system that will enable us to do a better job of explaining to farmers which ecosystem service markets make sense for them, and to establish a set of protocols and standards so they will know what they're getting into. So this is a new source of income. Part of the climate smart agriculture effort also involves what we've been doing for some time, but in an accelerated way, converting agriculture products and waste into bioproducts. Now, in the Midwest, we know all about this because we do a lot of ethanol production. But there are incredible new industries that are going to be available as a result of this technology of transitioning and converting agricultural waste into something more valuable. The ability to take manure from livestock and instead of over-applying it to land, being able to separate the solids from the liquids, being able to extract from the liquids organic material that can be used in organic farming, and reclaim the water in states like Nebraska that are concerned, obviously, about water usage. The ability then to pelletize the solids and then convert that either into dry fertilizer or to convert it into something more valuable. There is technology that can transition it into sustainable aviation fuel, for example. Now, sustainable aviation fuel is a huge industry. It's a new industry, 36 billion gallons. The ethanol industry is 15 billion gallons, so do the math. Ethanol industry supports 400,000 jobs, do the math. It's a huge opportunity. And it's just one of literally tens of thousands of bioproducts that can be converted. We just recently invested money at USDA in utilizing soy oil and converting it into a thermoplastic substance that can be used in street repairs, reducing the reliance on things like asphalt. There's also a project of actually converting ag waste into a product that is similar to asphalt. There's a tremendous new opportunity here for new income and for new commodities and conversion of agricultural waste. Also part of this effort is our Renewable Energy for America program. We're essentially investing $2 billion in a variety of grants. In fact, today we're announcing 541 awards across 44 states of additional REAP funding, $120 million of additional REAP funding. 536 of these are be grants, 3 loan grant combos and 2 loans. Here in Nebraska, we're awarding of that number 18 additional awards in Nebraska for wind projects, solar projects, for energy efficiency, coolers in grocery stores. There are a variety of and you'll hear it from some of the panel members today. All told, in Nebraska, we've done 190 of these grants in the last couple of years, about $15 million. This is going to allow farmers to reduce their costs, but it also allows farmers potentially to produce excess energy on their farm. The question is, what would they do with that excess energy? Well, we have a program called PACE and New Era. And the PACE program and the New Era program are aimed at RECs and municipal utilities. RECs and municipal utilities that are anxious to convert from fossil fuel generated power to renewable energy power. And what we're doing is we're investing about $10.7 billion in this effort to accelerate transition. I think it's possible for farmers to work cooperatively with their neighbors to generate electricity that could help and assist their local REC in that conversion. And that creates, if you will, an energy economy, or an energy commodity, which is a new income source for farmers. So in the climate smart renewable energy portfolio opportunities, there are four significant opportunities for value added or additional income. We also have a companion program on the organic side where we're encouraging more organic production if folks want to transition. Just to give you a sense, with the announcements we're making today, we've already done 6,063 Renewable Energy for America grants to farmers and small businesses in rural places. We've had a number of PACE awards already, and in fact, Nebraska was a recipient of two of those awards. We'll hear from one of the awardees today, and excited about the opportunity to see that in action at the village of Emerson, for example. There's also a Midwest Electric Cooperative, $18 million all told, committed to Nebraska in this area. So the bottom line here is about local and regional food systems. And why is that important? Well, when farmers basically sell their commodities and it goes to a big entity and it gets processed, the question is, we go to the grocery store, is how much of our dollars spent at the grocery store does the farmer get? The answer varies from year to year. Sometimes it's 15 cents, sometimes it's 22 cents. Let's say 20 cents on average. 20 cents of every food dollar. But when that farmer basically sells directly to a consumer, a lot of the middle people are eliminated, and the result is the farmer can get anywhere from 50 to 75 cents of every food dollar. So it's a better deal, if you will, for the producer. So the question is, what are we doing in this space? What are we investing in this space? Well, we started with processing, something that Nebraska, something that your Senator Fisher said in particular, said we need more processing capacity, and we listened to her. And we established 4 different ways of trying to promote more processing. We provided grants for the expansion of processing. We provided loan guarantees for companies that were interested in either developing or expanding their processing capacity. We established a intermediate relending program where we provided resources. The Center for Rural Affairs was a recipient of one of those grants that allows them to sort of lend the money out and relend it and create an ongoing revolving loan fund to expand processing capacity. And we also invested in existing facilities to allow them to consider the possibility of selling beyond the state border that they were operating in interstate commerce. All told, we've done up to this point in time 385 projects, and we've spent $1 billion plus in this effort. We also know that many who want to get engaged in local and regional food systems, and the university knows all about this, is they need technical assistance. They need to know where to go. They need to know what kind of financial opportunities might be available. So we invested resources in 12 what are called regional food business centers. This university happens to be, the university system here in Nebraska happens to be heavily involved in this. And we invested $420 million across the 12 entities to provide the technical assistance across the entire United States for anyone who's interested in trying to develop or get into a regional food system. We've invested in our local ag marketing programs. That's a value-added program. It's a local ag assistance program, a regional assistance program, a farmers market promotion program. Invested nearly $324 million across the country in that effort. We provided commissioners and secretaries of agriculture nearly $386 million on processing and supply chain support in non-meat and poultry. This is all meat and poultry processing here. We invested money in local food purchasing agreements where we basically gave resources to states and said, look, as you're purchasing money or food for schools or for food banks, you need to spend a portion of this money with local and regional food producers. All told, we've invested over $2 billion in helping to build out this system. And again, Nebraska took full advantage of this. You had basically, you've taken advantage of virtually all of the aspects of this and heavily engaged in this. And then we've also basically, in our regular procurement efforts at the federal level, we're now saying as we provide commodities for schools, as we provide commodities for food banks, it's our responsibility as well to be able to figure out how to buy local and buy regional. So these are all better market opportunities combined. And then we did a fertilizer program where we basically said we don't want to be reliant solely on Russian and Belarus fertilizer. Nebraska's taken advantage of this program as well. In fact, we're announcing today another award in our fertilizer program, an opportunity for us to invest resources, and you'll hear from some folks here today. Bluestem Systems is receiving nearly a $3.9 million award. This is the second of a fertilizer awards that we've made just in the state of Nebraska. So it creates not just a commodity opportunity, but a value-added opportunity, new income opportunities, better market opportunities, more market opportunities, lower costs, and new commodities and new income. And so instead of just get big or get out, the word is get entrepreneurial. And it's up to, I think, the Department of Agriculture at the federal level and at the state level. It's up to the commodity groups. It's up to the universities. It's up to everybody that's in the supply chain. It's up to the nonprofits, the environmental groups, all of the people that are concerned about the state of agriculture to help focus and support this system so that we provide an option. And I'm going to finish with this, because this is as important as it is to preserve opportunities for small and mid-sized operators, as important as it is to produce and preserve opportunities for small communities. There's a national security imperative associated with this, beyond food security. And the national security imperative is just simply this. Rural America today represents 15% of America's population, but it produces 30% or more of the American military. So if you continue to shrink the population of small towns, you're shrinking the population of people available and interested in providing military service. Now you ask the question, why the disproportionate number? Now some people will say, well, it's an opportunity for young people to see the world and all of that. Yeah, probably it's some of that. But I think it's more than that. I think it is that when folks grow up in rural Nebraska or the rural Midwest or the rural parts of this country, they grow up around farmers, ranchers, and producers. And when they do, they understand something very basic about those individuals who are farming, ranching, and producing, which is that they have a relationship with the land. And that relationship with the land is an understanding that you can't keep taking from the land. You have to replenish it. You have to renourish it. You have to put something back in it for it to continue to provide for you and your family and for the country. It's a basic deal, if you will, a basic understanding. And young people grow up surrounded by that, and they understand, you know, this country's pretty great. It provides amazing opportunity. I think I'm exhibit A of that. And the opportunity is simply this. I started out life in an orphanage, and here I am today talking to you as the Secretary of Agriculture. This is a pretty great country. And these young people basically intuitively understand that something's got to be given back to the country. So the value system that's alive and well and is supported by farming, ranching, and producing needs to be preserved. And to do that, you have to have people stay in the business. So this, to me, represents an alternative. It's not it's not a circumstance where it's going to replace production agriculture. It complements production agriculture. And I think it's going to be important over the next 3 to 5 years because everything on this board right now has been paid for the next 3 to 5 years. Everything's been paid for. So it's not like we got to have a farm bill. It's not like we have to have a budget. Everything's paid for. If this works, future farm bill discussions, future budget discussions might be in order. But for now, it's about implementing this, about creating opportunity. And understanding, and I'll finish with this, understanding that as important as the farm bill is, it's not just by itself enough. You need the farm bill, you need a budget, you need the Inflation Reduction Act, which is going to support the conservation aspects of all of this, and you need the flexibility to use the Commodity Credit Corporation in creative ways to create opportunities in markets. And if you have all 4 of those working in concert, supporting this and production agriculture, then you've got a situation where moms and dads can sit down with their children and their grandkids and basically say to them, you know what, there is genuinely an opportunity for us, for you to stay, for you to work, to raise your family here, to create and to support this amazing industry of American agriculture and to do it in creative and entrepreneurial ways, and in doing so, help yourself and help your country. All right, so with that, I'll stop, and I think we're going to have a conversation with some folks. So